He is a puppet. It's weekend at Biden. I think that we should not really, be surprised that all these world leaders look past Biden. They know Biden's a figurehead president, Jesse. He's not running the country. He's not running anything. So if they really want to, make inroads with the United States or siphon more money away from us, they need to go to maybe John Kerry or Janet Yellen, or frankly, just go right to Biden's donors, because they really call the shots when it comes to trade with China or how much we're going to spend on any given conflict that never ends.
We're calling out Russia's plans loudly and repeatedly, not because we want a conflict, but because we're doing everything in our power to remove any reason that Russia may give to justify invading Ukraine, and it will be responsible for a catastrophic and needless war of choice.
Laura Ingraham has just unleashed a political earthquake. She's exposed a secret so explosive, it could shatter everything we thought we knew about America's future. The powerful never wanted this to see the light of day. Why? Because it reveals a terrifying truth about where America is really headed. Biden administration's relationship with China. Laura Ingraham, in her characteristic hard-hitting style, has recently shed light on what she perceives as a deeply troubling aspect of the Biden administration: its approach to China. Ingraham argues that the current administration is far more enthusiastic about cooperating with the Chinese Communist Party than with their Republican counterparts in Congress. This assertion came on the heels of Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo's 4-day trip to Beijing. Ingraham remarked, "After this trip, it's clear that this White House is just far more excited about cooperating and working with the Chinese Communist Party than they ever have been or ever will be with the GOP." But what exactly transpired during Raimondo's visit that has Ingraham so concerned? The Commerce Secretary's agenda included establishing working groups and announcing a tourism summit. However, Ingraham sees these actions as mere window dressing, masking a more alarming reality. One of the key issues Ingraham highlights is the trade deficit with China. She pointed out a staggering increase from $38 billion in 2020 to $352.30 billion last year. This astronomical jump, according to Ingraham, is not just a number on paper, but a real threat to American economic sovereignty. Ingraham goes further, suggesting that the establishment in Washington, D.C., including figures like Janet Yellen and Gina Raimondo, would be euphoric if we were even more dependent on China for our supply chains. This dependency, she argues, is not just about cheaper goods for American consumers, but has far-reaching implications for national security. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of Ingraham's commentary is her assertion about the establishment's attitude towards China. Ingraham doesn't stop at criticizing the Biden administration. She takes aim at what she sees as a broader problem within American political and economic circles. She cites New York Times columnist Bret Stephens, whom she describes as a supposed Republican, advocating for dropping Trump-era tariffs on Chinese imports. Ingraham mockingly characterizes this as showing American economic magnanimity towards China. Her concerns extend beyond just trade and economics. She touches on the geopolitical implications of the Biden administration's China policy. Ingraham mentions the BRICS summit, involving Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, that preceded Raimondo's Beijing trip. She sees this alliance as an attempt to eclipse America and the G20, suggesting that while the U.S. cozies up to China, China is actively working to undermine American global influence. Recent developments seem to add weight to Ingraham's concerns. China's continued military exercises near Taiwan, its growing influence in the South China Sea, and its role in global supply chains have all come under increased scrutiny. The COVID-19 pandemic has also highlighted the risks of overdependence on China for critical supplies, including pharmaceuticals and medical equipment. Moreover, China's actions in Hong Kong, its treatment of Uyghurs in Xinjiang, and its aggressive stance towards Taiwan have all raised alarm bells internationally. These issues have put pressure on the Biden administration to take a tougher stance on China, even as it seeks areas of cooperation on issues like climate change. The Biden administration, for its part, has maintained that it seeks a policy of strategic competition with China. This approach aims to confront China on areas of disagreement, while seeking cooperation where interests align. However, critics like Ingraham argue that this nuanced approach is equal to appeasement. Is the Biden administration's approach to China putting American interests at risk? Or is it a necessary recalibration after years of confrontational policy? With global dynamics shifting and China's influence growing, the stakes couldn't be higher. As we think about these weighty matters, another crucial aspect of American politics demands our attention. How is the current administration's approach to domestic issues shaping the future of American democracy? The state of American democracy and election integrity. Laura Ingraham's recent commentary has cast a spotlight on what she perceives as significant threats to American democracy and election integrity. Her concerns go beyond typical partisan rhetoric, delving into the very foundations of how elections are conducted and how democracy functions in the United States. One of Ingraham's most provocative claims revolves around the 2024 election cycle. She argues that some in the political establishment are framing the upcoming election in stark terms. If Biden wins, all will be well again in the world. Democracy lives to see another day. This framing, according to Ingraham, sets up a dangerous precedent where only one outcome is seen as legitimate. But what happens if the results don't align with this narrative? Ingraham points to a troubling sentiment she's observed. If someone like Trump ends up winning, meaning they win enough states to push them over 270 electoral votes, it means the whole system implodes. This view, she argues, undermines the very essence of democratic elections. Ingraham's concerns extend to what she sees as attempts to fundamentally alter how elections are conducted. She highlights proposals from academia that she finds particularly alarming. For instance, she cites UPenn psychologist Adam Grant's suggestion to abolish elections altogether. Grant proposed a system where government officials, including mayors, governors, legislators, justices, and even presidents, would be selected through a random lottery, similar to how jurors are chosen. While this idea might seem far-fetched, Ingraham warns her audience not to dismiss it outright. She reminds viewers that other concepts that once seemed fringe, such as gender fluidity and critical race theory, also originated in universities before gaining wider acceptance. Ingraham's commentary also touches on a sensitive topic in American politics: voter trust. According to a Gallup poll from September 2021, only 20% of Americans were very confident that votes would be accurately cast and counted in the 2024 presidential election. This lack of confidence cuts across party lines, though it's more pronounced among Republicans. The issue of mail-in ballots, which became widespread during the 2020 election due to the COVID-19 pandemic, remains a point of contention. Ingraham suggests that some view the expansion of mail-in voting as a way to swamp the populists, potentially giving an advantage to establishment candidates. But it's not just the mechanics of voting that concern Ingraham. She also raises alarms about the influence of big donors or big tech on election outcomes. This touches on a broader debate about campaign finance and the role of social media in shaping public opinion during election seasons. Recent developments have added fuel to these debates. For instance, in 2023, several states passed laws affecting voting procedures. Georgia's SB 202, signed into law in March 2021, introduced stricter ID requirements for absentee voting and limited the use of ballot drop boxes. Critics argue these measures could suppress voter turnout, while supporters claim they enhance election security. Ingraham's commentary also reflects ongoing discussions about the Electoral Count Act. In December 2022, Congress passed reforms to this act, clarifying the vice president's role in certifying electoral votes and raising the threshold for objections to a state's electors. These changes came in response to the events of January 6, 2021, which Ingraham has also addressed in her show. Her concerns about election integrity extend to the very people overseeing crucial negotiations in Washington. She pointed out that among the 5 men playing dominant roles in budget and appropriations talks, 2 are over 80 years old. President Biden, 80, and Senator Mitch McConnell, 81. Ingraham argues that their advanced age raises questions about their capacity to handle such critical responsibilities. This age issue ties into broader concerns about leadership and decision-making at the highest levels of government. According to a 2022 Pew Research Center survey, 47% of Americans say that having an upper age limit for elected officials would make American government work better. Ingraham's commentary paints a picture of a democracy at a crossroads. She argues that the current administration and its supporters are more interested in maintaining power than in truly representing the will of the people. Democrats just simply don't much like or trust you, the voters, she claims. They think you're stupid. But is this assessment fair? Are the challenges to American democracy as dire as Ingraham suggests? Or are these natural tensions in a diverse, evolving democratic system? Economic challenges and policy failures under Biden. Just like this economist, Laura Ingraham has been relentless in her criticism of the Biden administration's economic policies, painting a picture of a nation in decline due to what she sees as misguided leadership. Her commentary zeroes in on several key areas where she believes the administration has fallen short, leading to what she describes as a sharp deterioration in the quality of life everywhere. One of Ingraham's primary concerns is inflation. She recently pointed out that when Biden took office, the average price of gasoline was $2.39 per gallon. However, due to what she calls his anti-oil and gas policies, prices soared to over $5 per gallon at their peak. This dramatic increase in fuel costs has had a ripple effect throughout the economy, affecting everything from food prices to transportation costs. She accused the administration of dishonesty regarding the federal deficit. While Biden claims to have reduced the deficit by $1.7 trillion, Ingraham argued that his spendapalooza actually increased it. This discrepancy, she suggested, is indicative of a larger pattern of deception from the White House regarding economic matters. Ingraham's criticism extends to the Federal Reserve and its chairman, Jerome Powell. She argues that Powell dropped the ball on inflation in the spring of 2021, failing to respond quickly enough to obvious inflationary pressures. This delay, in her view, has contributed significantly to the economic challenges facing average Americans. She doesn't shy away from using stark language to describe the economic situation. She refers to the current economic downturn as the Biden recession, arguing that it's an inevitable result of the administration's policies. Ingraham cited a Politico report noting that recession worries are building across the financial industry, with more than a dozen big banks forecasting little or no growth. But it's not just abstract economic indicators that concern Ingraham. She focuses on the tangible impacts on American families. For instance, she highlights the struggles many face in affording groceries and filling up their cars. She also points out the losses many have experienced in their retirement accounts due to market volatility. Ingraham draws a stark contrast between the economic conditions under the Biden administration and those under the Trump administration. She claims that just 5 years ago, under Trump, America was on a roll. This comparison serves to underscore what she sees as the failure of current economic policies. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Consumer Price Index rose 9.1% year over year in June 2022, the highest rate since 1981. While inflation has since moderated, with the CPI increasing 3.7% for the 12 months ending August 2023, it remains above the Federal Reserve's 2% target. Ingraham also touches on the issue of income inequality, though from a unique angle. She points out that while American workers struggle, there's a perception that illegal immigrant dreamers are valued over native-born Americans. This sentiment taps into broader concerns about wage stagnation and job competition. the economic picture Ingraham paints is one of widespread struggle, particularly in blue states. She argues that from New York to California, New Jersey, Washington state, it's not getting better. Life is getting worse. This assessment aligns with data showing that some of these states have experienced population declines in recent years. For instance, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, California lost 343,230 residents between July 2020 and July 2022. But are things really as dire as Ingraham suggests? While economic challenges certainly exist, there are also positive indicators. The unemployment rate, for example, stood at 3.8% in August 2023, near historic lows. Additionally, wages have been rising, with average hourly earnings increasing by 4.3% over the 12 months ending August 2023. Ingraham's commentary also touches on the global economic context. She criticizes the administration's approach to China, arguing that policies favoring engagement with Beijing come at the expense of American workers. She points to the U.S. trade deficit with China, which reached $382.9 billion in 2022, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. But she doesn't limit her criticism to the Biden administration. She also takes aim at what she calls the establishment in Washington, including figures like Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Ingraham argues that these officials are more concerned with managing China's economic challenges than addressing the needs of American workers. One of the most provocative aspects of Ingraham's economic commentary is her assertion that the current administration values illegal immigrants over American citizens. She claims that Biden's team isn't focused on raising their standard of living. Instead, the Biden team is focused on remaking the country where illegal immigrant dreamers are valued over native-born Americans. This sentiment taps into broader debates about immigration and its economic impacts. While some economists argue that immigration can boost economic growth, others contend that it can suppress wages for low-skilled workers. The reality is likely more complex than either side admits. Ingraham's economic critique extends to specific policy proposals as well. She takes issue with calls to drop Trump-era tariffs on Chinese imports, arguing that such moves would further harm American workers. Instead, she advocates for policies that prioritize American manufacturing and reduce dependence on foreign supply chains. Her views on economic policy align closely with those of former President Trump. She frequently contrasts the economic conditions under Trump with those under Biden, painting a picture of prosperity lost. For instance, she points to the low unemployment rates and rising wages during Trump's tenure. However, it's worth noting that economic trends often span multiple administrations and are influenced by factors beyond any president's control. The COVID-19 pandemic, for example, has had profound and lasting effects on the global economy. Ingraham's economic commentary often intersects with her views on culture and values. She argues that the cultural Marxists are turning society upside down, and that this cultural shift is intertwined with economic decline. This perspective reflects a broader conservative critique that links economic policies with social and cultural issues. One name that frequently comes up in Ingraham's economic discussions is Larry Kudlow, former director of the National Economic Council under President Trump. Kudlow, who now hosts his own show on Fox Business, often echoes Ingraham's criticisms of Biden's economic policies, providing a sort of intellectual backing to her arguments. Another figure Ingraham references is Peter Navarro, former trade advisor to President Trump. Navarro, known for his hawkish stance on China, aligns with Ingraham's views on the need for tougher trade policies and reduced economic engagement with Beijing. Are we witnessing a temporary economic downturn? Or is this the beginning of a longer-term decline in American prosperity? The answer to this question has profound implications, not just for economic policy, but for the very fabric of American society. While economic concerns dominate much of the current political discourse, Another issue looms large in Ingraham's commentary and in the national conversation. How are current immigration and refugee policies shaping the demographic and cultural landscape of the United States, and what does this mean for the country's future? Immigration and refugee policies in the United States. Laura Ingraham's commentary on immigration and refugee policies in the United States paints a picture of a nation grappling with demographic and cultural changes. Her perspective on these issues is both controversial and influential, shaping the conversation among her viewers and beyond. One of Ingraham's primary concerns is what she describes as an open border policy under the Biden administration. She points to statistics to support her claim, noting that there have been approximately 7 million illegal crossings since Biden took office. She doesn't shy away from highlighting the economic impact of illegal immigration. She claims that human smuggling is now $1 billion a year business, suggesting that current policies are not only failing to stem the tide of illegal immigration, but are also enriching criminal enterprises. Ingraham's criticism extends to legal immigration as well, particularly refugee admissions. She points out that the Biden administration has green-lighted the admission of a total of 186,000 refugees from all over the world. This marks a significant increase from previous years, with Ingraham noting that only 11,411 refugees were admitted in 2019 and 2,465 in 2022. But it's not just the numbers that concern Ingraham. She raises questions about the vetting process for these refugees, suggesting that it's non-existent in some cases. This claim taps into broader concerns about national security and the potential risks associated with large-scale refugee admissions. One specific group Ingraham focuses on is Afghan refugees. She notes that nearly 990,000 Afghan refugees have been admitted to the U.S. following what she terms the disastrous Afghan withdrawal. While acknowledging that some of these individuals may have helped U.S. forces and deserve priority placement, she argues that proper vetting is crucial. Ingraham's commentary on immigration often intersects with her views on cultural preservation. She expresses concern about what she sees as a shift away from the traditional melting pot model of assimilation towards a form of multiculturalism that she believes has been a colossal failure in the United States. This perspective is reflected in her criticism of progressive politicians like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others who, according to Ingraham, have long believed that it is America's obligation to take in as many Palestinian refugees as we can. Ingraham questions this approach, asking why these individuals couldn't be resettled in countries closer to their native land. Her views on refugee resettlement extend beyond just numbers and logistics. She argues that large-scale refugee admissions put a strain on local resources and budgets. We simply don't have the capacity in our cities or local budgets to cover what is an exploding cost of educating, feeding, and clothing people in those gargantuan numbers, she contends. Ingraham doesn't limit her criticism to the current administration. She points out that both Republican and Democratic administrations have contributed to what she sees as problematic immigration policies. For instance, she notes that George W. Bush allowed in a staggering 381,000 inches refugees over 4 years, while even Trump, whom she generally supports, allowed in 118,000 or so. However, Ingraham reserves her harshest criticism for what she describes as the rich and powerful who advocate for more open immigration policies. She argues that these elites believe that we owe a moral obligation to the rest of the world, but that they themselves will not suffer any of the consequences of the policies they support. This sentiment taps into broader debates about the distribution of the costs and benefits of immigration. While some economists argue that immigration provides net economic benefits to the receiving country, critics like Ingraham contend that these benefits are not evenly distributed, with working-class Americans bearing the brunt of the costs. Ingraham's commentary on immigration also touches on issues of national identity and cultural cohesion. She expresses concern about what she sees as a lack of assimilation among some immigrant groups, arguing that somewhere along the line, the melting pot gave way to self-loathing and critical race theory. This perspective reflects a broader conservative critique of multiculturalism and identity politics. Ingraham suggests that by teaching children that America is a rotten, racist country, we discourage new immigrants from wanting to assimilate into American culture. Her views on immigration are not without their critics. Many argue that her portrayal of immigrants and refugees is overly negative and fails to acknowledge the positive contributions these groups make to American society. Others contend that her concerns about assimilation are overblown, pointing to historical patterns of immigrant integration over time. Despite these criticisms, Ingraham's perspective resonates with a significant portion of the American public. A Gallup poll from July 2022 found that 38% of Americans favored decreasing immigration levels, while only 27% favored increasing them. Ingraham's commentary on immigration often intersects with her views on other policy areas. For instance, she links immigration policy to economic concerns, arguing that large-scale immigration suppresses wages for native-born workers. She also connects immigration to national security issues, suggesting that inadequate vetting of refugees could pose risks to public safety. One of the most controversial aspects of Ingraham's immigration view is her use of terms like replacement theory. This concept, which suggests that elites are deliberately encouraging immigration to replace native-born populations, has been widely criticized as promoting xenophobia. However, Ingraham argues that demographic changes resulting from immigration are having real political and cultural impacts that deserve discussion. Ingraham's commentary on these issues, while controversial, highlights the complex challenges facing policymakers as they navigate the fraught terrain of immigration policy. As the debate continues, one thing is clear: the decisions made today about who we allow into our country and how we integrate them will have profound implications for the America of tomorrow. What do you think about Ingraham's controversial opinions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. For more on what's going on in the world, like this video and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.